So many people that are watching my videos and posts have thanked me not only because they are in a cult or realized they were in a cult, but because they are starting to realize that they were in abusive relationships with narcissistic people. And there's no coincidence here that there is such a parallel between cult leaders, cult dynamics, and narcissistic abusive relationships. So I wanted to do this video about one particular type of narcissism and refer you to a couple of experts who speak extensively about narcissism, and educating yourself about the dynamics of people who have narcissistic personality traits will help you to understand what the motivation is behind what they're doing, why you might be what one woman that I worked with, she was a therapist and she described it as narcissistic crack. Like you seem to be attracting them everywhere you go. And what this has to do with cult leaders and how it sort of infects the culture in a group like I was in, because it's almost like this cancer cluster. It's like the guy at the top is a specific type of narcissist, and the closer that anyone was to him and the longer they were around him, the more narcissistic they became. Now, Dr. Ramani talks about 7 types of narcissism. I'll link to her channel in the show notes here. Today, I'm going to be talking about malignant narcissism. When I worked with Dr. Yanya Lalit, she said, and I might get this quote wrong, but that every cult leader she studied was a malignant narcissist, and some were sociopaths. So when I talk about malignant narcissism, there is a lot of parallel there with psychopathy, sociopathic tendencies, and they're really scary. They're scary people. So not all narcissists are malignant narcissists, but these are sort of like the ones that tend to be in positions of power where they're using coercive control, and makes for a perfect cult leader. Erich Fromm was the first to describe malignant narcissism. Many predators and cult leaders display behaviors which are not only filled with narcissism, but also have these psychopathic antisocial behaviors, which make them involved with criminal behavior. So when you take specific behaviors in people like Donald Trump, compare him to cult leaders like Sun Myung Moon, who led the Moonies, Scientology's leader, Ron Hubbard, the People's Temple leader, Jim Jones, and others, you'll see the following lists of characteristics. And understand that the major feature here is a lack of empathy. So people without the ability to empathize are unable to love another person and put their needs above their own. So understanding how people like this function can help you to wake up and exit destructive, abusive relationships and even cults like I was in. The list of these characteristics can be compared with and in conjunction with Dr. Stephen Hassan's influence continuum, as well as his BITE model of authoritarian control, in order to get a full picture of how this works and how unhealthy this dynamic really is. I'm going to link to all of that in the notes so you can follow up with more education from these experts. Number 1, grandiose, self-centered behavior. So cult leaders and other malignant narcissists have this sort of sense of grandiosity, like they are chosen, they are super special, and they have this sense that they're the best at anything and everything that they do. Number 2, fantasies of power, success, and attractiveness. They believe that they are special and unique, and as such, one should only associate with special, high-status people, and they consider themselves geniuses and that they're so extraordinary. They've just put themselves in this position of power. Number 3, need for praise and admiration. Cult leaders require constant praise. Number 4, sense of entitlement. Cult leaders have a sense of entitlement. They think they are above the law and can do anything. Here's a quote from the cult leader that I was with for 12 years. He says, "See, I do things and people say he's going to go to jail because he's doing that. No, I'm not. Why? Because I know I'm not. Because I'm not worried about what's legal. I'm interested in how I can create something. Do I think it's illegal for me to do it? No. Everything about the legality of this reality does not work. And I'm not living my life according to anybody else's rules, not fucking ever." So that is a really good example of sense of entitlement. The rules don't apply to him, according to him. 5, lack of empathy. So this can lead them to exploit, bully, shame, and demean others without guilt or remorse. When I left the group and started speaking out, he decided to bully, shame, lie about, and demean me publicly, and with the target of destroying my reputation. So people like this will always put their needs above other people. They have no empathy. They don't care that they're destroying your life. All they care is about getting what they want. 6, antisocial behavior. 7, lying. 8, interpersonally exploitative. They will use and abuse everyone around them to get to the result that they want. The ends always justify the means for these types of people. Sadism. 10, harassment and silencing. People who have commented on my posts have been fired, blackmailed, and threatened. They are silenced. They are being scared into being quiet, because what this group would like is for this to be about me versus them, and not for this to be about them and what they're creating and the actual bad behavior that they're doing and the abuses of power that they continue to do. So the more support that I get, especially from people who are known associates, family members, staff, or in any way still a part of this organization, they don't want that. That makes them actually look bad, and that makes it look like it's not just me, the crazy person who's spouting nonsense, but it makes it actually legitimate. So side note, don't feel like you have to comment on my post to support me. I want you to take care of yourself. So just a side note for my friends out there. I know that you're there for me. Don't put yourself on the line just to have my back. I do know the danger in doing that. 11, violence. 12, paranoia. These guys are really paranoid. So and it's kind of funny because they're always out to get everyone, that part of that paranoia might be founded in truth, because there are probably people that are coming back because they're always hurting so many people. You know, they assume someone is coming to get them. And at some point that is probably true. All right. 13, inability to trust friends and subordinates. So there's always this silo effect where in these organizations, like, not one person knows everything. There's little groups and they separate them, so that because there's this paranoia and this lack of trust from the malignant narcissist at the top, they keep the information siloed. And that also helps to keep everyone from knowing what's really going on, because you only have access to your little group or cluster of information, and so does everyone else. But when you start to compare notes, it paints this bigger picture of how bad it really is. Whereas if you keep everything siloed, people sort of can ignore the fact that this is a really dangerous, bad thing that they're a part of, and they can just go, oh, well, it's just this one little thing. Dr. Ramani did a series on all these types of narcissisms, but in particular, the malignant narcissist, she devoted 3 full videos to. I really encourage you to watch it. Some highlights about these characteristics. She says, like all narcissists, so in typical narcissism. There's lack of empathy, entitlement, grandiosity, validation seeking, arrogance, and superficiality. That's like all narcissists have that. In addition, with your malignant narcissist, you have exploitativeness, manipulativeness, meanness, menace, cruelty, coercive control. They'll be very deceitful in order to protect their interests and their fragile egos. This cult leader is very open about being deceitful. He even added manipulator to his middle name because he's proud of it. And the patterns, again, are very similar to those of psychopathy. There's a willful disregard and a willingness to take advantage of other people. Ethically and legally, they're very sketchy. If you know this organization or the leader I'm talking about, you will know what that means. They don't, again, like the quote I read, they don't believe that they need to apply, rules don't apply. They bend and break rules and laws for their own advantage. Once again, motivated by power. So that is their number one motivation. Money is closely associated with the power and required to get and maintain that power, but it's not so much about the money as it is about the power. And they get that power through controlling and oppressing other people. They will put their pleasure over any needs of other people. So if it comes down to any choice, it's always going to be them putting what they want and their pleasure over your needs. They're generally very paranoid and into conspiracies. So this actually fuels their rage because underneath this, they do have a lot of anger and rage, and they can unpredictably lash out or rage at people. There's been stories of people from this organization that have come forward and just described really random things like being kicked out of classes or being like having their license revoked, sort of just at the whim of this leader. And that comes from that sort of violent rage, that unpredictable rage that can just come out at any minute. And they have a lot of times a focus on business. They're sometimes really successful at business and making a lot of money because, again, it's all about the power that they are after. So if you hear this list and you're reading this list, it might be triggering some things for you that you want to look into more in regards to people that you know. Narcissists don't generally think that they have a problem. So I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're not the malignant narcissist. If you are, you just think you're great. And as narcissists do, they don't go seek help for this because they feel like this is getting them what they want. And it probably is. So assuming that you're the person dealing with someone who has these traits, I'm going to direct you to Dr. Stephen Hassan and Dr. Ramani for a lot more on this. Dr. Ramani has written a couple of books as well and done a bunch of videos and podcasts. So even just a Google search of Dr. Ramani, you can come across a lot of her really brilliant information and posts. And I also wanted to do this video because the question that I keep getting from people is like, do they know that they're doing this, or do they think what they're doing is good? And it's a complicated question because there's multiple people involved in the cult that I was in. I believe 100% the guy at the top, the malignant narcissist, knows exactly what he's doing. The other people is another story for another video, other types of narcissism going on there. And of course, on some level, they are victims of the leader. And on another level, they may very well be victimizers in their own right. So for now, malignant narcissists and cult leaders, and also just having an awareness of how narcissistic dynamics play out in your interpersonal relationships. I hope that this helps bring some clarity and information into your world.